There's a reason your prospects keep saying, I want to think about it, and it has almost nothing to do with your script, with your presentation, with your carrier, with your price. And just so you know, I've spent a lot of money on ads. I've generated more than 13,000 leads, and I've had thousands of conversations with agents who are stuck in the same spot. And what I've come to realize is that the biggest hole in most agents' businesses is not a skill problem. Sometimes it is a belief problem. And there's a guy named Grant Cardone, who, by the way, that's like the guy that I studied my first year or so when I got into the insurance industry. And he wrote a book called Sell or Be Sold. And in it, he says something that hits harder like every time I read it. He says, the conviction that you have regarding your product is more important than the conviction that others have about their facts, their figures, your product. In other words, how sold you are on what you are selling matters more than how not sold the prospect is on buying it. And that is the entire game that he talks about in this book. That's why the title of the book is Sell or Be Sold. And I want to walk you through what that actually means for a life insurance agent. I want to tell you why it shows up on every discovery call, whether you know it or not. Also, why you can feel it in your voicemails, your messages, your emails, and what to actually do about it starting today so that the next time you sit in front of a prospect, you show up different and they can feel that you show up different. So let me start with the story from Grant Cardone's book because it is almost too on the nose for what we do. He talks about like a finance and insurance guy at a car dealership, and obviously this is the person at the end of the car sale who is supposed to sell you credit and also like the extended warranty. And Cardone asks him why his numbers are low. And the guy tells him he just bought a brand new car himself because he loves the car. And then Cardone asks him like a very simple question. He says, like, of the finance and insurance products you sell every single day for a living, how many of them did you buy for your own new car? And the guy laughs, kind of like embarrassed, and says, none. Like he didn't want to spend the extra money on them. And that is the exact moment the whole thing falls apart because the man is selling protection products that he himself did not think were worth buying. His prospects could feel it and his numbers reflected it. And no script in the world was going to fix that gap because the gap was not in his mouth, the gap was in his head. Right? So it's not like his selling, it's not like the things that he was saying, is that he didn't believe what he was saying. And the reason this matters for you is that this is happening in life insurance offices all over the country right now. Like agents are pitching index universal life policies, term insurance, whole life insurance, living benefits, and they have not sat down and gone through the same conversation with themselves that they're asking their prospect to have with them. And prospects can feel that. Like literally every single time you have a conversation with them, if you don't own a product that you're recommending to the person that's in front of you, to a prospect, to a lead, then they can feel that. And Cardone has a line in the book that I want you to kind of like sit with for a second. He says, the conviction is the ability to be so firmly sold on your beliefs that you demonstrate to your buyer with such complete and utter certainty that no other choices appear to be available. And that is kind of like a wild sentence if you think about it. But like when you actually read it slowly, no other choices appear to be available. And that's not because you outmaneuvered the prospect, and it is not because you used some sort of like fancy word or fancy phrase or a selling tactic. It is because your certainty is so high, is so heavy in the room that the objection loses its weight. Does that make sense? Like the prospect goes from thinking about it to feeling like the decision is already obvious. And the reason you can't fake that, and this is very important, is that certainty leaks out of you in ways you don't even control. It leaks out through your pace, it leaks out through how you answer the premium question. It leaks out through whether you flinch when they say they need to talk to their spouse or not. It leaks out through how quickly you send the follow-up message. Like prospects are not analyzing your words, they are reading the temperature of the room. And the temperature of the room is set by how sold you are on what you're asking them to buy. Now, the reason I care so much about this for life insurance agents is because our industry has a very specific version of this problem. In our industry, most agents got their license. They sat through a couple of maybe career trainings. They learned how to run some illustrations. And then they went straight into the field trying to sell coverage to strangers. Like, they never sat down and asked themselves the hard question, which is, if my spouse and my kids depended on this exact policy from this exact carrier at this exact face amount, would I sleep well at night? And if the answer is anything other than a fast, clean yes, the prospect is going to feel that. They're going to feel it in your voice. They're going to feel it when they ask, why term instead of whole life, or why whole life instead of term. They're going to feel it when they push back on price, because the moment they push back, you're going to start hedging, and the hedging is what tells them to kind of like slow down. And Cardone would say you allowed your certainty to waver. That's what he calls it. And once your certainty wavers, the sale is over. Like, forget about it. And like, it might not be over that day. It might drag out for, who knows, 2 more weeks or 3 weeks, a month, and even to like following up. But it is functionally over. So let's talk about the fix for a second, because I mean, I can tell you like the problem, but I mean, I think it's even better if I tell you the fix. Because the fix is not a trick. The fix is a set of questions you have to answer for yourself out loud, alone in a room, before you get in front of another prospect. Okay, so the first question is, do you own the same category of coverage that you are trying to sell your prospect? If you sell term policies, do you own a term policy? If you sell IULs, do you own an IUL? If you sell term, again, do you own a term at a face amount that would actually protect your family? If you sell final expense to seniors, do your own parents or grandparents have final expense? Like, do they have that plan in place? And I'm not asking you the moral version of the question. I'm asking you the certainty version. Like, when you sit across from a prospect and say, hey, I recommend this, and they ask you the follow-up question that they always ask, which is, hey, like, do you have this yourself? And if you haven't been asked this question, then you will be asked this question. You have to be able to look at them in the eye and answer without your throat tightening. And you should be able to say, hey, yeah, like, I'll show you my policy right now. And I've done that before. I'm also in the business with my father. He's done that before. He's pulled out his phone and showed the prospect his policy in the middle of the meeting. So do you actually know why your carrier, this is the second question, do you actually know why your carrier is the right carrier for this specific prospect? Not in general, for this person. Because if you can't answer that in one sentence, you're going to sound like every other person who's ever emailed them a quote. And quotes don't close, quotes get compared. So the third question is, will you pay this premium yourself? If a version of you at this age, in this health class, at this income, would not write the check for this policy, then you have not sold yourself yet, and you're not going to sell your prospect. And that is Grant Cardone's point in one line. You cannot transfer a belief that you do not possess. And I want to close on something that Grant Cardone says that I think is the whole game for us life insurance agents. He says, only to the degree you are sold can you sell. Only to the degree you are sold can you sell. That's the sentence that I want to finish off with, because you cannot manufacture certainty. You cannot fake it with pace or volume or urgency scripts. You have to actually go do the work of getting yourself sold. And the way you get yourself sold is by owning what you sell. You need to own the products that you sell by studying the product, okay? Until you can explain it to your grandmother in 3 sentences. And by sitting with the reality that if this thing does not do what you promise, a family is going to feel it. And that last part is what most agents avoid. And it is also the reason they never break through like the ceiling that's holding them back. Because the day you take that seriously, your voice changes, your text messages change, your voicemails change, the emails that you send out to prospects change, the way you follow up changes. The way you handle the price question, the premium objection question, changes. And the prospect on the other end of the phone feels a person who is unshakably clear about what they are recommending. And that is the person they say yes to. So the action for you this week is very simple. Get out a yellow pad. And it seems like every single video I recommend that you get out a yellow pad. I just realized that pattern. Write down every product that you currently sell. And next to each one, write yes or no to the question. Do I own this myself? Then next to that, write yes or no to would I pay the premium for this product at my age and my health class today? And whatever product has two no's next to it, that is the product maybe costing you deals right now. And that is the product you need to either buy for yourself this month or stop bleeding with in your presentations. And that is where the change starts. The moment you close that gap in yourself, prospects start closing on you. And the most important sale is not the one you make to your prospect, it is the one you make to yourself. So with that being said, I'm rooting for you. Let's get to work. Take care.